Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We'll hand you one. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Since 6 p.m. this evening, the Board of Education has been in closed session for discussion of lawfully closed meeting minutes. Also, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel of the district. The setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the district, and finally litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular district has been filed or is pending before a court or administrative tribunal. And with that, I would like a motion to come out of closed session, please. So moved. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I will recite our mission, our all-important mission at all of our buildings and in this building, all our 20-some buildings in the district, and that is to educate students to be self-directed learners, collaborative workers, complex thinkers, quality producers, and community contributors. And with that, I will ask our board secretary for a roll call, please.
Student ambassadors present, Kyle Hafke and Bryce Dunlap. Board members present, Donna Wanke, Susan Price, Terry Fielden, Jackie Romberg, Mike Yench, Kristen Fitzgerald, and Susan Crotty.
Thank you very much. And with that, please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance with Maplebrook Elementary School. And do you have a microphone? Oh, here you go. Please grab one. There you go. Thank you.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly pronounce Maplebrook Elementary Student Council. And here today we have
Maya. I'm in 5th grade, and I am in Miss Pardunchiata-Sachs class.
Katie Dalton, I'm in 5th grade, and I am in Mrs. Kleinwalter's class.
Joey Rubis, I'm in 5th grade, and I'm in Mrs. Faitner's class.
I'm Adam Lifka, and I'm in 5th grade, and I have Mrs. Cummings for a teacher.
I'm Riley McGrath, and I'm the representative for Miss Cummings' 4th grade class.
My name is Landon Bailey, and I'm in 4th grade, Mrs. Murphy's class.
I'm Lauren Anders. I'm in 3rd grade in Mrs. Shipaw's class.
I'm Sayla Lee, and I'm in 3rd grade in Mrs. Berge's class.
I'm Charlie Morgan, and I am in 3rd grade, and I am in Mr. Craig's class.
Thank you. Are you ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You guys stay right there for 1 second. Parents, if you'd like to step around and get a little bit closer for a quick picture, go right ahead in the open area right there. Feel free to come into the center too, folks.
Might need to borrow that microphone back.
You think?
That was.
You think?
Well. Okie doke. Oh my gosh, it was awfully close. Okay.
Good news.
Okie doke. We have good news, so I will ask our superintendent, which might be why a number of you are here. We love good news. Great news?
We have great news. We have great news, and we have some recognition. First, I just called to your attention a letter from the regional superintendent, Darlene Rossetti, that's available for you in board docs, congratulating Seth Brady. Last week, the Illinois State Board of Education announced the 12 finalists for the 2015 Illinois Teacher of the Year, who will be named during the Those Who Excel banquet in October. This program recognizes and acknowledges the contributions and accomplishments of more than 200 educators and school personnel from throughout the state and honor one individual as the Illinois Teacher of the Year, and I'm proud to share, as hopefully many of you have heard already, that Seth Brady is one of the 12 finalists. So we congratulate him, and we will recognize him at some point after those who excel, with the hopes, well, we won't go too far yet, but with the hopes that it's a wonderful celebration. So. One of the things that came through our Future Focus process was the reaffirmation that the mission statement is alive and well and drives everything that we do in District 203. And the board has challenged us to find ways, in addition to the more customary and formal ways we do, to call attention to individuals in our school district who are living the mission, who make the mission alive and make the mission a part of who they are and what they do. And so for this school year, our first recognition is to a group from Steeple Run. So I'd invite Principal Debbie Doyle to come forward with her kids. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves as well. I'm going to turn around this way, guys. Right over here.
I'm Cade DeMalig.
Ricky Yarshin.
Brandon Tran.
Okay, and are you going to talk about what they did, or would they like, well, why don't we have you guys tell us a little about, I'll tell you why they're here, but these three fifth grade boys organized a company, Center of Trash Control, on their own, and they independently plan and carry out a cleanup of garbage on the playground and field 2 times a year. So certainly being community contributors, but also self-directed in terms of coming up with this company and work. So we thank them for their work, and maybe if you guys want to take a second and tell us what inspired you to do this or why this is a good thing, we'd love to hear from you.
Well, I think it's good to our planet, and it's really bad to litter, and especially to throw trash on the ground.
Anything else you want to add?
It inspired, when I was looking out into the city, I saw a lot of trash and it made me sad. So it inspired me to put this company together.
We also made this company so we can inspire other kids to recycle instead of litter.
Great. So each of them will be receiving a certificate and I believe a T-shirt from Mrs. Carlson over there. And it says, for living the district mission, District Mission Maker Award, Steeple Run Center for Trash Control, COTC team. And so with that, they'll each receive that. So congratulations. Parents, again, if you'd like to take pictures, please come forward and join us. Great. Nice job, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Doyle. Thank you, students.
Okay. For our next recognition, I'll invite our Director of Community Relations, Julie Carlson, to join me in recognizing award winners from the National Network of Partnership Schools at Johns Hopkins. So first, I will do the first one because Julie is receiving one, so we can't really have her give one to herself. But the district award for the core team subcommittees, and if the following individuals would come forward, Julie Carlson, Nick Masinski, and Mariella Romano.
Yes, that's right.
Any family or friends want to take a picture here? I know we have one there.
I do. Do you want the backdrop here?
Yep, that would be great.
Also from Naperville North High School, winning a National Network of Partnership Schools award for their College Transitions program. We'd like to recognize Principal Kevin Popst. And then his co-team members, Suzanne Green and Lori Wiley. Yes. And then you can go up in front too. Great, and then will you go up in front too, please? We're gonna go up to the front because we're going to get one big group.
It's been pointed out that the apple is not green.
Thank you. And then from Highlands Elementary School, in recognition for their program, Our Mindful School, Principal Cheryl DeGan. And I know Kathy Ruiz couldn't make it tonight. And Julie Honeycutt. And then for the team from Prairie Elementary School, being recognized for their program, A Picture is Worth 1,000 Words. I know Tracy Dvorak was unable to be here tonight. Casey Chitwood. Elizabeth Gretz. And then we want to recognize also Tracy DeCook and Kate Boyle. And then we'll go on up in front. Yeah, thank you. And then most of these awards recognize decades worth of recognition from the National Network of Partnership Schools, but winning for the first time this year for their Math Backpacks program is Mill Street Elementary School. And I know that Debbie Crossett and Mary Baum couldn't be here tonight, but Board Member Kristen Fitzgerald is here. We want to thank them for all of their hard work.
Everyone behave and cooperate. Yeah. We're going to introduce Kids just here, and they want to take your tag out. Step up, everybody. Oh, wait. We'll just get custody. Okay, here we go. And the chair's right in the way. Sorry. Don't worry about it. You sure? They're kind of big. They're way big. Yeah, it's better, right? The scenery. Upside down? No, we're all good.
I think we're okay.
Okay, I'm going to take a few. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Congratulations so much. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, Suzanne. Thank you so much. Congratulations. You worked so hard. Congratulations. Congratulations, Nick. Congratulations, as always. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, you know what? Safety.
Safety last.
Yeah, safety. There was a lot of bit of that jump rope that was there before. Okie doke. The next item on our agenda is public comment, and just I do not have any slips, but just to refresh everyone, if you'd like to speak to the Board of Education in a public meeting, and you're speaking on your own behalf, you have 3 minutes, or as a group, 5 minutes. And is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak that did not fill out a sheet? I don't see anyone. Okay, with that, the next item on our board docs would be our communication. The district has received from outside organizations, and you can page through that, and then monthly reports. I feel like I'm running through this awfully quickly. Monthly reports for your perusal, the treasurer's report. Treasury report.
Because you skipped all
Oh my gosh, communication. No wonder I thought, whoa, that's going fast. I'm sorry. Written communication. Goodness gracious. Okay, written communication. Superintendent, staff, and school report.
There we
Yeah,
go.
oh
We
my
do have a
goodness.
couple reports and some information this evening. The
Whoa,
first
it's going real fast.
is just to call your attention in board docs under item 6.02 is a tentative board planning calendar. The calendar identifies tentative topics for discussion and for action at future board meetings. Again, just as a reminder, not an official agenda. It is subject to change. Just an opportunity to provide interested individuals kind of a preview of things that will be brought before the board for discussion in the next few months. Looking ahead to October 6th, we will have another school improvement presentation. BB is scheduled for that day. A report and wrap up on the summer school from the past summer, as well as we anticipate having proposed resolutions to go before IASB that we would look at for the first time and come back with recommendations the October 20th, and we intend to bring forward procedures for the possibility of advertising to go along with policy that the board has already adopted. Any questions from the board on this? Okay.
Again, I think our superintendent had suggested it is another way to be transparent to the community if they wanted to know what was coming, might be in the pipeline in the next few months, although things do change a little bit depending on what's going on with the state or different things in the community.
And item 6.03 is in that same vein. There are some slides listed there, but I don't necessarily have a presentation. It really speaks for itself. An update looking ahead in this next several meetings or over the course of this year when various commitments regarding the strategic focus or the strategic blueprint will be presented to the Board of Education. You will note that there are some commitments that we still need to schedule some final dates. We're waiting on some information and reports before we actually set those dates. I would like to call special attention to strategic focus number 4 as a reminder that on Wednesday and Thursday of this week, we seek to re-engage with the community for a State of the District discussion Wednesday night at Naperville Central. And note the change in location within Central will begin in the auditorium. Breakout groups will then leave the auditorium for other areas around the building. And then also Thursday, September 18th, we return to Grace United Methodist Church. The presentation will again be a State of the District with updated information in our current state, and we'll speak about, again, a little bit about who we are as a district, the things that we're doing in the classrooms, as well as some discussion about finances and how we get things done. Any questions from there? Okay. And then item 6.04, an important part of what we do to ensure that all of our students have an opportunity to achieve the district's mission, along with our curricular and academic programs, is the importance of co-curricular participation through athletics, activities, clubs, and other things, particularly at our high school. One of the commitments in the blueprint addresses a continuous improvement cycle for co-curriculars. And tonight, to give you an update, is a team from both Naperville Central and Naperville North. But I do believe Deputy Superintendent Kane Osborne has some introductory comments before they get moving. So I'll turn it over to Kane for those comments and invite our presenters to come on up and find their seats. And I'll note the coordination on the tie between the two gentlemen. The red and the orange. Very good.
I am going to go ahead and start from back here since we have so many presenters up front and I only have just a few slides of introduction. If someone up front could pull up the presentation, though, to that first slide, I'd be grateful. And it is my honor to introduce this presentation tonight, as I feel confident you're going to hear about something being undertaken by our Athletics and Activities Department that is rare among high schools, if not unheard of. Tonight, before you are both principals, our respective directors of athletics and activities. You might not know or not know everybody, but I'll just introduce particularly our directors. Andy Lutzenkirchen is athletic director at Naperville Central. Bob Quinn, our athletic director at Naperville North. Jen Baumgartner is our activities director at Naperville North. You know Principal Wiesbrook and Principal Popst. And Lynn Nolan, who's our activity director from Naperville Central, could not make it tonight due to a prior obligation. Go ahead and change the next slide and just go over the presentation outcomes. I'm not going to read the slide to you, but quickly, know that our outcomes are meant to share the rationale of the commitment, the overview of the improvement process, specific steps taken in that process so far, the content of the process, including specific indicators and measurements for this year, and finally, subsequent steps for this year and beyond. Go ahead and change the slide. There you can see the rationale for the commitment, actually the commitment statement itself that's taken from the blueprint to implement a continuous improvement plan for high school athletics and activities departments that results in enhanced extracurricular experiences for students and families. Additionally, our rationale for the commitment recognizes that extra and co-curricular activities play a substantial role in the growth and development of students, particularly in grades 9-12. Students who have successful extracurricular experiences are more likely to succeed in terms of academic learning, social emotional learning, college and career readiness. Establishing a continuous improvement process for these departments will enable them to engage in the same process meant to ensure that curricular learning at the high school continues to progress. That's directly from our blueprint rationale. We already have very successful extra and co-curricular programs, but as Future Focus itself brought up, our community expects us to be engaged in continuous improvement, something that has long been embodied in the cheer that you can see there at the bottom of the slide. Good, better, best, never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. And I think that is a fitting context for our presentation tonight. I'll go ahead and hand it off for the next slide.
Thank you. I think it's my turn. I'm Bill Wiesbrook. I'm the principal at Naperville Central High School. And a while ago, I'm not even sure when this initiative came forward, I was very excited and pleased because I know that our community very much values co-curricular participation. The majority of high school students participate in something after school during their high school experience. We survey our seniors about a month before they graduate each year, and they consistently report that they have very positive experiences, very positive growth experiences with co-curricular activities. We were able for the first time in my 19 years in the school district to gather together all of the head coaches for athletics and the head sponsors for the IHSA activities in one place and get them all together and work towards defining the criteria for success for co-curricular activities in athletics. It was an exciting process and I think a step in the right direction towards continuous improvement. And I would like to introduce our athletic director, Andy Lutzenkirchen, who will kind of guide you through some of the details of what took place.
First, we'd like to have some acknowledgments of everybody that was involved in this process, starting from the very top with our superintendent, Dan Bridges, Kane Osborne, Bob Ross, our two principals, and the four activity and two athletic directors, and all of our head coaches, getting together to meet, to buy into the process and moving forward, what is this process going to be and what are we going to use it for? As we look at where we started, for an overview of the process, as you can see, this process is a circle, is a never-ending process, and it can change throughout. So the first thing we wanted to do was to establish indicators of success, how we're going to measure that, moving that into developing tasks and how we're going to achieve those indicators, implementing those tasks after we've achieved and targeted those, gathering feedback, how we're going to gather feedback, and analyzing that feedback, and what will we do with that feedback. This slide, we're going to get back to that after we get through some more information for you, so you will see this one again. This process started in February. Both Naperville Central and Naperville North High School, we came together during a school day, as was stated, with all of our IHSA head coaches and IHSA-sponsored activity head coaches. We brainstormed. We needed to figure out why are we doing as well as we are and what can we do better. And for me personally, that meeting was phenomenal. It was great to put different people in a room, and you had some very strong-willed and minded head coaches and activity directors. And I think the most important thing that came out was we can all help each other with what we do, and that there's not a big difference between athletics and activities. And I think that's where this indicators of success is going to be successful. Coaches prioritize the most meaningful indicators in that big group. With that, after that meeting, We took all that information and we met with parents and student representatives, and we asked them the same questions. What's important to you, and what are indicators of success? And coming out of that, I think we were all surprised that we were all pretty much on the same page as coaches, activity leaders, and also as parents and students. Then in late March, we got a core group of head coaches together, and this is where we really hammered this out. We wanted to review the input from various stakeholders, and we drafted the initial document. And we also went through the core group decisions on a mission statement. The core group defines indicators of success, and then a document was drafted coming out of that meeting. Move it over to Bob for this.
Andy had mentioned the mission statement, and I think it's really important that we understand and know that the mission statement is not our Naperville words, but it is certainly words of John Wooden. And as you can read it there, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you are capable. And one of the things that I think is important to understand is that that is the underlying premise on which all of these things are based. It's about helping young people, student athletes, or students involved in activities achieve their best, reach their full potential through coaches in helping teams reach their full potentials, activities reach their full potential, all of those kinds of things. So with that as the base, we came up with 5 indicators of success, and those 5 are listed there. I won't read them to you, but I will explain really what each of them indicate. And the first having to do with, and one of the themes, obviously, that you'll see with this is the word collaboration. Students and coaches working together, students and students working together, all of those entities working to collaborate to create the greater good. The first one on the left in the red box has to do with collaboration to construct team targets and team goals. So coaches and student athletes working together at the team goal level. The next one has to do with coaches and student athletes and activity members working to help develop individual goals. Individuals being a part of that group process and that team. The third one having to do with coaches and students contributing to create a positive experience. One of the things that this group heard from parents is they want them to have an enjoyable experience, an experience that's going to help them continue to learn and grow. So that's the third indicator of success. The fourth indicator of success, as we all know, whether it's an activity or a coaching point, we want coaches and sponsors who have knowledge of and are able to assist our students at achieving a particular skill in whatever it is that they're doing. So coaches working together at a high level to assist develop those individual skills that are going to lead to success depending on whatever the activity is. And then finally, the underlying premise is that there is a two-way communication by stakeholders, students, student athletes, coaches are working together to have a two-way communication. Parents and students are also a part of that so that the communication is going both ways and being productive to help move folks in a positive direction. Finally, after taking a look at those 5 indicators of success, which are born from the mission statement, there'll be an opportunity for us to measure some of that success. And Jen's going to talk about that. Or Andy's going to talk about that.
So we get back to the overview, and where are we at now with this? So we have established our indicators of success and our measures. We've developed tasks to achieve the indicators. We are at the point where we're implementing the task with our fall teams, and this year we're using our varsity teams to implement this. The next step will be, as we start to wrap up here towards the end of October and November, to start gathering that first season of data, and then starting with to analyze, and then moving forward from there.
Okay, so in conjunction with our sponsors and our coaches, we really felt to achieve meaningful feedback, we really needed to survey the students that were directly involved in the programs. So what we're going to do, the students will fill out an anonymous survey. They will receive a link from their head coaches towards the completion of their season. They will fill this out, and then we will gather all that information and start the next process with our coaches in a conversation with our coaches and sponsors about those surveys. you can see on the screen, these are just some of the questions that are on the survey. The survey is set up for the as the 5 indicators list, and they really, they kind of hit what those coaches and sponsors hopefully have talked to them throughout the season, and won't be anything that will be surprising to them when they see these questions. Hopefully, that's our goal, and that's what we've shared with our sponsors and coaches at the beginning of their seasons. That we want them when they see the survey. Yeah, I know I can answer this. I know what these indicators are.
So as we started this process, and what we give to the coaches is a program evaluation review from the coach. That's what we want to get back. Where do they think they're at, and how is their program look in their eyes, and where are we going to go with that information? So part of that was to identify specific steps that they've taken to achieve first indicator of success, which is that coach and sponsors and students collaboratively construct, understand, and actively implement team targets and goals. And we wanted to look at this in stages, and how is this going to relate, and a lot of this kind of corresponds with how a school improvement plan is going to come together in putting all those goals together.
So then obviously the conversation begins between the activity director or the athletic director and either the coach or the sponsor. So we have the information provided by our students and student athletes. We also then have this coach reflection piece that Andy had talked about, and we begin to have the conversation about, where did we measure up? How did we meet the 5 indicators of success? Where are areas that we need to do a better job? Where are areas that we're doing well, and celebrate those things and work towards professionally developing coaches and moving programs forward and continuing to have great success and move to continued and higher successes.
So as we move through with some frequently asked questions, will the feedback be used to evaluate the coach? The survey and feedback is not used as an evaluation tool of the coach. The information gathered is geared toward the program. And we feel that if the coaches are doing what these indicators are asking them to do, success is going to be a product of what we're doing with all our different indicators, and that is going to come. And then the other question is, will wins and losses be part of, included in this? And we didn't feel that we needed to include wins and losses. Again, I go back to, if we're doing what's the indicators of success are implemented to do, the wins and losses are going to take care of themselves. There are certain things out of our control. We play in a very tough conference, and we try to find the best quality competition that we can. A coach may have a successful year, but the win-loss record doesn't show it. They lost 3 games by 1 point, but they did have successes throughout the year. And then who's going to see the survey? The athletic director and activity directors will see this, and the coach. And it's a process to review those results, have a conversation or possibly multiple conversations, and set direction for future work. The conversation may be, this program is doing wonderful. Everything you're doing is great. Keep up the good work. But there's always room for improvement, every program that we have. And that's what we hope to get from this feedback. Bob, you want to take this one?
Sure. Obviously, we had talked a little bit about who's going to be taking the survey, and as we had mentioned, at some point, this year is simply going to be our varsity student athletes, head coaches, and those involved with varsity activity programs, and those are the ones who will be participating. The plan would be, as we work through this process and as we work through some of these kinds of things, that we would continue to use this throughout the programs, continuing to develop leadership with our student athletes and with our coaches. So we would hope that we would continue to do those things moving forward with larger numbers of folks throughout the process.
So where are we at now? So in November, in November, we will come back together again as the group of the administration that's been involved in this and kind of talk where we're at, how we feeling it's going. The data survey will be collected from the fall sports, and we'll start having our first conversations with our head coaches and activity directors and sponsors. In February, we'll start our second conversation. The winter coaches, everything will be presented to them again in November, and then the students will take their surveys. Also in February, we are hoping and planning on bringing our sponsors and coaches back together again. This is what I'm really excited about. I think this is going to be a great reflection piece for them to see what are you using, what did you do, what was your input from your students. We all know when we bring our sponsors and teachers together, then they collaborate, they learn so much from each other. So we're really excited about that, to meet back together with them. I'm seeing some great things already that some of our head coaches are doing. And then if need be, after that meeting, we'll make some revisions if we want to change a few things and either implement that for our spring teams or wait and start again in the fall with our fall coaches and sponsors. So this is our process going forward.
We're open for questions if you have any.
Questions? Sure, Donna.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for all your work, and it's exciting to see where we're going and how we're progressing. I think this is more for Jan than the team, but thanks. On page 7, it talks about how it says the Naperville Community Unit School District 203 co-curricular programs adapted, and it goes through the quotes and the indicators of success. But I understand that we're going with the high schools here. Is this going to be something that the junior highs are going to do as well as a team, or is it going to this process filter down, or how can you speak to that a little bit?
This process has the potential to filter down. So I would say at this point right now, we have not gone in the direction of doing this at the junior high school level at this time, but it certainly has that potential. I guess you could view this as a prototype or an attempt to see really kind of get the process together. Is this a process that makes sense? As was said in the introduction, this type of ongoing program evaluation, at least in high schools in this part of Illinois that I'm familiar with, is not really done to this level. So I applaud this team for being willing to take on this responsibility. It does have that potential, and as you've heard them say throughout, they also see it spreading throughout their level as well. Remember, we're just focusing on the varsity for the initial data collection and the prototyping of the surveying and the information, with the idea that it would spread to other levels in their building too. So.
Okay. And then, and I applaud you for it not being part of the evaluation of the coaches and sponsors, but briefly, because we brought that up, briefly, can you explain how then are the, what are those, we know how teachers are evaluated and administrators, but I'm not sure the community understands how coaches and sponsors might be evaluated.
If I can just interject at one point, I will call your attention, and I'll get the date for you. But we did provide that presentation and information to the board at probably prior to your service. I'm trying to, So it is for the public who's there. There is a date, and we'll make sure that that's available. But so I'll turn that back over to them then.
Yeah, nothing lengthy. I just want,
Coaches are evaluated, at least in athletics, daily as we walk through practices, as we look at. You have a practice plan ready to go. You can tell if kids are enjoying the program is a huge indicator for us. And I think these indicators they're also going to show and kind of reflect on that evaluation of a coach. If they're meeting these 5 indicators, they're probably doing a very successful job then through the evaluation as we evaluate them through their practices, games. Kids are enjoying themselves. Practices aren't going too long. We're not hearing a lot of feedback from parents that are having a negative experience with that team. Excuse me. And then another indicator for me, at least on my side at Central, is how involved are the parents? Are the coaches open to parents being a part of the program, but appropriately? You have that fear that coaches put their hand up, I don't want to talk to the parents. But for me at Central, my coaches are pretty good about listening to that feedback from parents, and that's kind of part of that survey process. That the parents still have the opportunity to talk to us or to talk to the coaches throughout that process.
June 18, 2012. Board of Education meeting. The evaluation document is available there.
For activities, we have an instrument actually that we have, and it's got a different set of meetings, budgets, things like that they're maintaining. As well as athletics, we observe a lot. We're at a lot of things that they're doing. But our best source are our students. I mean, they know that they're open to come in and talk about things if they're frustrated. But we also encourage that they talk with their coaches if they're frustrated. We kind of have I ask them for a protocol. Make sure you try to talk to your coach first. If not, then the parents reach out to the coach. And then obviously the activities directors and the athletic directors step in. But we do have a tool that we use. I have over 100 different clubs, so I don't evaluate them all every year. I call them my high-profile ones I look at every year, and then we alternate the other ones. But the communication is always it's the key, and I think we talk quite a bit with our sponsors, and because they do a lot of paperwork, and we have a lot of budgeting that goes on. So.
And I think also for athletics, to go with what Jen said, we also have a tool in athletics, and it's very similar to how we evaluate a teacher. We set up goals. What is your plan for this year? Where do you see the team going this year in those directions?
Dan, the June 18th, 2012, does that cover high school or junior high as well?
High school.
Okay. So I guess my question would be then, what do we have in place? And that doesn't have to be answered here, but at some point, what do we have in place in the junior high level?
Okay.
So sorry.
So go ahead. I was just
Can I?
gonna ask you. No, please go ahead.
So you talk to head coaches from IHSA sports and competitive activities, and are those the coaches that you're going to be evaluating, that they're participating in this?
Yes.
So essentially everybody who's on this list?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other?
So other activities, which are always a question to me, they wear our uniforms, hockey, any of the other, whatever you want to call them. How does that work in marching band? Do you consider that just one of your activities that you're?
Well, marching band is a part of this.
Okay.
So we put them on there.
Okay. Did I miss that? I'm sorry.
We put show choir on. We put marching band.
But what about like our hockey team that sometimes is, both high schools, things like that? How do those fit in?
The initial first step, I'll just interrupt because we talked about this on Tuesday of this week, was to focus initially in the first year on those that are that are IHSA competitive. Okay. So again, this goes to the trickle down or the spreading effect. It's once they've had an opportunity to implement with those that are in the IHSA event, then there's the potential to move that forward.
Kristen?
Thanks for the overview. This was really helpful, and I think it has a lot of potential for continuous improvement. My question is, what % of our students are participants in co-curricular, would you say? Just offhand.
80.
I know it's 80% or
80?
higher, yeah.
So my question is, for those students who aren't participating in a co-curricular, whether it's a sport or club, was there a part of this process that looked at why they aren't? There's so many benefits, the sense of belongingness, the academic, all the balance, the well-roundedness. So did we make an effort as a part of this effort to say, what kinds of things could we do to increase that percentage?
Some of them work in things. Sometimes there's
I think that is a part of this process, and as we get more surveys back, maybe we're going to find out what is missing, that kids don't want to be a part of a certain activity or a certain athletic. But 80%'s a really good number.
It's absolutely high, of course. It's great.
We would love to have 100%, absolutely. If we could mandate that every student that walks in the building has to do one thing in their 4 years, kudos to the Board of Education. Yeah. But no, I don't. We'd be foolish to think we're ever going to get 100%, but if we can get that number higher, absolutely. And perhaps that's what we're going to find out in these surveys.
I think some of the challenges, like Mrs. Romberg said, was that there's an issue with work. A lot of students have to go home work. The other issue we have, and we've put this out there numerous times, is we have students that don't have a ride home. And so they would love to stay and participate, but they have no way home to get home. Mom and dad at work or at home. So that's something we always put out there. If we could provide a way to get them home after the practice and stuff, that would be wonderful, because I think a lot of we'd see that participation rate go back up from that. I agree. Every year I'm like, okay, how many more clubs can I create to get another 5-10% kids in that love? They all have different interests too. So, but I think that's our biggest challenge is work, taking care of family at home, and getting back and forth to school.
So will that be a continuous process as well? I know you'll continue to survey the folks who are participating, but will there be some type of continuous feedback from other students who aren't to say, okay, it is transportation, or, hey, if you offered this would be something I would do, or Will there be something like that that's included in this process, sort of for the overarching goals of participation?
Well, I think that those critical questions are the questions that we've got to ask with the data. And this is the starting point, and it's an opportunity for us to gather some information, make some decisions about what it is students are interested in, what it is and what the reasons are why they're not participating. Certainly love to have 100%, as we've all said. And, you know, I'm hopeful that that's the information that will come from the data that we're just starting to pull together.
An important variable with that is I'm looking at two gentlemen that are sitting right behind the key presenters tonight, and that's at the top. And that as a parent, I do know that I've heard, at least in the Naperville Central side, the key message to incoming freshmen is get involved. Mm-hmm. We want you all involved, and I know that's the message from both schools. So it is a very strong desire of the schools that the kids get involved. There's research to support the engagement in the academic success. The more students are engaged. Mm-hmm. I'll give another example at the junior high school level, though, and again, I'll make it a personal example. But my daughter does not participate in any clubs or activities at school, but her calendar is filled with other activities such as soccer, for example. So there are things that I think some of those are factors that they deal with also, that they do have other commitments and things that they're doing. But it is an important question for us to continually ask. You're not involved, why not? And what do we need to do to get you involved?
And if you keep hearing, if we could just have one transportation, I don't know if the transportation is the issue or if there's something else. If you keep hearing it over and over, then there's maybe things that we can do to assist.
So the thing I like about the survey is that you've got the really life skill setting activities, the goal setting, the team spirit, and the communication. Those are skills that you want them to develop for life in general, right? And you've set aside the winning and the losing. Winning's very important. I mean, it's in business or sales presentation, whatever you're going to do, you always want to win. But I think that the fact that you're focused more on the athlete over the end result of winning and those developing those life skills is really where it's at. And hopefully it will attract some other people to come to the events and so forth and participate more. But 80% is exceptionally high. And that's the fact that you have those programs means that they're pretty well instilled, and probably the kids feel like they're being treated pretty fairly. So congratulations.
This was amazing, an amazing accomplishment. In the amount of time, I have a quick question. In that meeting that everyone came together, February 14, what surprised you? Were there any surprise comments? A 360 review, that's big business. I mean, that's pretty cutting edge for coaches and sponsors and kids, and it's out there. I mean, businesses don't do it. They do regular evaluation. So was there anything that surprised you that anyone said, or?
Well, speak for Lynn.
Yeah. For me, the biggest surprise was what each coach got out of it from another person. That, you know, a head coach and an athletic got from a head sponsor, to realize, you know, how much time each puts into their sport or their activity, and how much information they can use from each other. And the other great thing that came out of it was Naperville Central and Naperville North head coaches in the same room, sharing ideas of what works for me, what doesn't work for us, and one common goal. You know, we do battle on the fields and the courts and in the classroom for some of our activities, but we all had the same goal coming out of that, and I think that was what was great. Like I said, some pretty strong-willed people in that room, head coaches, able to work together and I think see that this is a good thing.
And the other thing, too, I think I've been in this district a long time, and I feel the emphasis on both activities and athletics is so important. It's so neat. You don't always see that when you go to a district. It's all about the athletic program, and then other things fall behind. And our sponsors and our coaches, when you see them together, there's so much common respect for each other, no matter, they know the time they're putting in, the passion they have, whether you're the band, the head football coach, or the speech team. I mean, that is so neat to see that this district has taken that stance, like every activity in athletic is important in this community. So, and we have very talented kids all across the board. So I think that was a really neat thing to see that as well.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much. It was very enlightening.
Great job.
Thank you. Okie doke, yeah. Flipped through all 6. Digital learning.
All
Digital
right.
learning. It's next on our agenda, agenda item 6.05.
6.05, that's right. And back in April, we gave our last update on the Digital Learning Initiative. And we have a team here tonight to update the Board of Education. Now that we're into it, just again, an overview for you on where we're at in the process and next steps. And I'm not sure if the team's coming forward or they're going to present from where they're at, because some are, there we go, okay. And I do know that Chief Information Officer Roger Brunel, I believe, is our first presenter. And so I will turn it over to him, and he can have the team introduce themselves too.
I'm slightly concerned because that is not the color of the presentation. It's the other one. That's not the presentation.
So board members have it. If we want to go ahead and start, they have it through board docs. They should be able to.
Dated the 15th, I believe. With the green background? Sure, we can start. Yep.
And you can follow along in board docs if that's okay.
Sure.
It's a technology error. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Roger Brunel, Chief Information Officer for the district, and we're going to do an update for you on our digital learning initiative tonight. Co-presenting with me, I have my colleague, Dr. Jen Hester, Chief Academic Officer. I have John Davidson, our Director of Instructional Technology, and Joe Jaraseski, our Director of Infrastructure. And Jen and I are the project or commitment owners, and these two gentlemen are co-managing the project. And I got to give you kudos because they've done a great job so far. There's so many moving parts, and they've done a great job of keeping all these things going. Quick look at our agenda for the next page. Thank you. Thank you. Next slide. We're going to review the commitment and tie it to the strategic blueprint. We're going to take a look at the outcomes of this pilot program. Jen's going to brief us a little bit on the rationale. And then we'll do a brief update on the scope, something about ecosystems, which you've heard a little bit before about, talk about activity to date in both the infrastructure and instructional IT areas. And you'll notice there were quite a few supporting documents in the package that you received that talk about some of the communications that we've sent out to parents and students and frequently asked questions and those type of things. Next slide, please. This digital learning initiative, and for those of you that may be watching or not familiar with this terminology, you may have heard this called a one-to-one pilot in other districts. That's the terminology that's most often used. And what we're talking about here is where the school district provides each student or a set of students with a dedicated technology device that they can use for enhancing their educational experience. And what we've done here and everything you're going to see is specific to the pilot program. The words digital learning initiative may probably extend beyond this program as we move forward in the out years, but we're talking tonight specifically about a controlled body of work in the pilot program. The outcomes are, and the first outcome I would say is probably the most significant, and there's a lot in that bullet point, but that is key. Define the educational, financial, technical, and operational framework required to implement and sustain an expanded digital learning initiative. The key words there are the framework and sustain. We certainly don't want to be in a position to do something once and then not be able to renew it, refresh it, and keep it going and keep it successful. The second one is to conduct a collaborative and vigorous pilot that maximizes our discovery while minimizing time and expenditure. So there's a balance there. It's a delicate balance as to how many people you involve in the pilot, how much money you spend on equipment, technology, and to get the findings that you need to make a recommendation and a conclusion. And third, leverage existing efforts already underway in the district and include those findings into the pilot process and recommendations. There's a lot of great things going on at our schools today. We're certainly way ahead of a lot of places in this world, and we're going to leverage those things and include them. The other thing I think that I'd like to mention is we're very cognizant in this pilot about having discoveries about, lost or damaged equipment. And I can report early we've had an incident. We had, I think it's an elementary student who took his computer and his kit home, which the kit is a nice case we provide. And hard to believe, but the family dog leveraged the technology for a chew toy. And so that, while unexpected, if you think about that, it shows how far we've come, because it used to be my dog ate my homework.
Right.
Now it's my dog
Sorta.
consumed my digital content. So the oldest excuse in the book is probably now going to have to change. But with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Hester.
And that couldn't be a better segue because I'm going to build the rationale again. I know the board has seen most of this slide before, but for our viewing public, it's not so distant memory for many of us of a classroom where the major tools, where the learning happened in rows, and the major tools were paper, pencil, and a chalkboard and chalk. But we all know today in our classrooms that our students are able to access their learning through multiple group strategies, that they typically aren't sitting in rows, that we have a lot of technology that is integrated into our classrooms. And then if we look forward to the future and what we're hoping to achieve, why we're doing this initiative, it's so that we can actually move beyond just that idea of integrating technology and start to use that technology in a way that actually allows us to do things that we haven't been able to do in the past. So it really helps us further our mission by providing more opportunities for collaboration and self-directed learning. If you think about the work of accessing all of this information and then trying to pull that together, there's a lot of opportunity for complex thinking and producing, not just being a consumer, but then being a quality producer. And then also giving our students control over the pace in which they learn, the place of where they learn, and the time of their learning. Next slide, please. You've also seen this slide before as well, but the key to all of our work with digital learning, but also with this pilot, is transforming learning. With transformative learning, technology moves from being used for substitution or improvement to being used for the creation of new tasks that we previously probably could not even think of. In the Digital Learning Initiative, teachers are integrating digital content with print content, and students are even creating content of their own. Our teachers are implementing instructional methods consistent with blended learning models that we've talked about in the past. And lastly, the technology and tools are enabling the changes in content and in the instructional methods. So I'm going to turn this over to Joe, who's going to talk about the scope of the initiative.
Different slide.
Couple more.
We're getting there. I'm doing an internal page down in my head, sorry. Okay, there we go.
Bingo.
Scope of the initiative. Scope of our initiative covers 13 schools, 41 selected classes, K through 12, including dual language, special education, gifted programs, 51 teachers, approximately 1,500 students, divided about 500 into each ecosystem. So as you think of an ecosystem, and you'll hear that, you've heard that before, an ecosystem is a continuum from the device all the way back through the enabling, supporting architecture of software, distribution of software, data storage, et cetera. That term is going to come up again and again, and it'll be certainly referred by me in future slides. Across the three ecosystems then out in our digital learning initiative, Apple, as at the schools you can see up there, Napier, Prairie, Riverwoods, et cetera. Microsoft ecosystem is being used at the Maplebrook, Meadow Glen schools, Napier, other places you can read. And then Google is in the schools you can see under Google as well. Next slide. We have devices that we're going to pass out as samples from each ecosystem. Apple iPad Air for Apple. This is an Asus Windows device for Microsoft. And Roger has an Acer Chromebook for Google. And if I can draw your attention back to the slide, you can see the three ecosystems represented, and the ecosystem then goes from the bottom to the top. So if you think about the bottom and enabling software, the browser, operating system, up to the device, and then as you go upward in each vertical column, you see what the ecosystem becomes. On the Apple side, we start with Safari browser, an operating system, an iPad Air as a device, into applications, all the way up to iTunes University, which houses the applications for learning. Google's the same way, with a browser up through an operating system, a device, Gmail for email, all the way up to Google Apps for Education, which is enabling educational infrastructure. Microsoft the same way, different product names, certainly familiar activities that are used. Browser for Internet Explorer, operating system is Windows 8.1. The device is Asus I talked about, storage, all the way up through their Learning for Education application suite. Next slide. To date, our activity on the infrastructure side, all the devices were assembled into kits. So 500 devices in each ecosystem were assembled into a kit. Kit consisted of a computer, a charger, and a carrying case. Documentation was included in the kit that included a device overview, guidelines, permission, and acceptable use forms. The kits were delivered to schools and classes, asset tagged and assigned to students. We managed class roster changes during the first part of the school year, so devices may be retagged or reassigned to other students as class rosters change. And we have spare devices available in each school to cover breakage and loss. Next slide.
Next slide. So what have we done on the instructional side? We wanted to highlight some things that our teachers, our technology integration specialists, and some of our teams have been doing since we started this initiative. One of the key pieces has been professional learning for our teachers. We started this back in June. We had a full day of professional learning for our teachers. We talked to them about different instructional strategies and techniques. That was facilitated by one of our teams that's a part of this project. The teachers had time with their new ecosystems and devices. They had some vendor-guided professional learning that day. They also had some time to collaborate by grade levels and content area. Throughout the summer, they had time within Canvas to do some collaboration as well. So we posted resources for them. They had opportunities to ask questions, to collaborate, and share with each other. We then pulled them back together before school started, gave them another day to collaborate, to share, and to talk about back-to-school activities. What were some different back-to-school techniques and tools that they wanted to do with their kids the first days? We'll pull them together again here in a couple of weeks. One of the neat things that we're going to do here in a couple of weeks when we pull them together is they're going to have different breakout sessions. So they're going to have an opportunity to pick 4 or 5 different breakout sessions that day to learn about some different content resources that we have for them, some things that are appropriate for their grade level or the content in which they teach. We've also spent a significant amount of time in data feedback collection. We have a team that their sole charge was to look at what we collected, how we collected it, and ensure that our teachers had the tools and the processes to do that. This consisted of some benchmark surveys that some of our teachers and students have already taken. We have weekly logs that our teachers are submitting that captures the different activities and tools that they're using in their classroom. We're capturing all of that via Canvas. I talked a little bit about some of the tools that we have. We wanted to make sure that a part of this initiative included a look at some different web-based content resources that were available in these different ecosystems. And so as a part of that, we went out and we had a team that part of their charge was taking a look at these content resources. And so we've been providing those to teachers in slow implementation over the start of the school year, and they'll really get a deep dive into those here in the next couple of weeks. And finally, our classroom deployments. We've spent some time, our technology integration specialists, in really being very thoughtful in how we roll these devices out to our students. So they've been going in, been doing some deployments with teachers, talking a lot about students' digital footprint. A lot of these devices are going home with kids. So one of the first things that they start and talk about is your digital footprint and being a good digital citizen and the choices that you make not only at school when you have these devices, but when you take these devices home as well. They spend a little bit of time getting the kids comfortable in these devices. It's amazing how short a period of time that is. The different classes that I've been in, the kids are so adept, and a lot of these are very intuitive for them that's a very small piece of what they do. And they also make sure they connect them to a lot of the different district applications that we have, so ensuring they understand how to use Office 365, how to incorporate Canvas and the different activities that they have within their classroom. Next slide, please. We've also got some supporting documents and tools, and all of these are in the appendix that Roger referred to earlier. But one of the things that went out to our parents and to our students, and Joe alluded to this with the kit that he referred to, is we had a list of frequently asked questions. We wanted to ensure that our parents, our students, our teachers had an overview of why we were doing this initiative. What were some of the key questions around theft and damage and home responsibility, web filtering? All of those were key pieces of that. We had a teacher letter that went home to our teachers that participated in the pilot, but we also had a communication that went to our teachers that didn't participate in the pilot, because we wanted to make sure they understood the rationale of why we were doing this as well. Parent letter and responsible use guidelines were kind of mixed together there. We wanted to ensure parents understood the use of the device with the student, both at home and at school, some of their responsibilities and expectations, and that was something that they had to agree and sign off and send back to the teacher as well. And finally, we put Joe's team has a piece in place where we wanted to ensure we were very transparent and offered our parents an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. So we have the email address and the phone number that you see up there on screen that's been communicated, so that parents have an opportunity, if they have any questions, they're able to either email or call members of our team with those questions. Next slide.
Next steps and timeline, you can see how this project unfolds over the course of 2014. Winter, spring, we created and implemented the governance model. I won't necessarily walk through each of these, but show you how it flows from winter of 2013 up through spring of 2015 as we continue with the digital learning initiative in a very collaborative and rigorous way, gain insight to make an effective and focused recommendation to the Board of Education. That insight is going to be gathered throughout the course of the study of this initiative, and we wrap it up in spring of 2015 with recommendation of what we found and recommendation to proceed.
Questions, Susan?
What, to the extent that you used all three ecosystems, what are you hoping, is one of the things you're hoping to learn is which one you'd rather use?
It's a lot of work. Our belief is that it may be a combination. It would be easier for IT to have one, but that may or may not be what's best for students as this plays out because of the different levels. So we're certainly open, and it's our charge to make sure the back-end technology works, but I don't want to circumvent the work of the team into what they will recommend. It would be easier if it was one from a lot of angles, but that may or may not be where we end up.
But that is one of the things you're measuring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The impact of multiple, right?
Yeah, and I think I would just chime in and say the important part about this is how it supports the learning, and that learning is going to look different in every classroom at different levels. So it's to ensure that the ecosystem that is in place is what's best for the learning that takes place. You know, in my visits to the classroom, I've had an opportunity to see all three of them so far this year, and I will say, regardless of device or ecosystem, the engagement of on-task engagement and learning has been phenomenal in the classrooms where they're doing this, which is true of any time we've seen technology in place in supporting instruction. But that is one quick observation that I would make. But I guess the long part of the answer, the short part of the answer is, yes, part of this process should determine which ecosystem best supports the learning at each of the levels.
Mm-hmm. Can I follow that? Because I was going to ask about engagement. So that was something that I heard also, talking anecdotally with different school board members at that last conference that we went to, that particularly for students who might struggle, that these types of applications do promote greater engagement. Are we going to be able to measure that?
You want to take it? Go.
So part of that data feedback team is we have 9 indicators of success that we're looking at that are being measured. One of those 9 indicators of success is an increase in student engagement and motivation. And so for each of those indicators of success, that data feedback team went through and identified at least 2 or 3 ways in which we would capture that information. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
Okay. I also had a question about your types of learning that you're utilizing. Will we be able to see teachers experiment with things like flipped learning because that's been one of those questions is how do you do that with the devices, and since they have a device and they're sending it home, will they be able to do stuff like that?
They can absolutely do that with the tools that they have. It is up to them with the methods of instruction that they employ.
Okay.
Susan. So this year at student orientation night, it was just fascinating that the math teacher wasn't handing out books. If you want one, you can check one out, but I only have 2 kids in all my classes that are taking them. And then we went to physics, and they said, well, we don't really have any textbooks, but you're welcome to, go online and look at this. And you go online, and they have everything. If you miss today, they can videotape it. Then they can also have other people's videotapes to show you like different areas, or you didn't get something and you're like, wow. So, as a parent, I have a hard time knowing if my kid is doing their homework or playing on the computer. Seriously, I really do. And, I'm like, can you please go do some homework? Can you open a book? I mean, how do you change that language and that conversation to know that you're because you feel like whenever your kid's on the computer, they're playing on it. And they're playing with learning.
Yep.
I think in your question, how do you change the expectation for students or for parents?
Both, I guess.
Okay. Well, I think definitely with students, it's the environment that they're used to working in. So they're still held to the same expectations of doing their work, turning their assignments in. It's very easy to see when the assignments are in and when they're not in. So I think the expectations for students are very similar. It's just, again, a different tool that they're using. I think with parents, it really, I think, falls on many of us, and I mean from obviously the classroom teachers to the building administrators to the administrators here to really communicate very clearly how they can support their students, how they know what the expectations for learning are for the year, and when they know that their students are meeting the milestones and benchmarks or not.
I'd also add that students are highly capable of multitasking. There's probably many people doing that right now in this room. And they are great at that. And so I think the evidence, the proof will be in the pudding. If they're in a lecture or they're in a college lecture, they're probably having their email open, having an internet site open, and also probably looking at some digital content related to the course they're in, all at the same time. And that's the world that they live in, and they're good at it. And so basically this meets them more in their world, where it's how they think now, a little bit different.
So I'm hoping maybe our student ambassadors could share a little bit, because there's always been computers in your classroom, but the way we've used them has changed over time. How does that help you get engaged in your learning?
Well, I think like last year, a few kids in some of my classes had iPads with them, and they never really used them for games or anything. They focused basically mostly on schoolwork. But what I realized most about it was how convenient it was for them, because they could, like you said, they could have a bunch of textbooks on there, so they wouldn't have to lug them around like all day at school, and they could do homework on there and just lots of things that make it convenient.
Yeah, I can also speak on behalf of that. I actually had an iPad myself for my English 3 class. And we had like all the books we were learning on the actual iPad, and we could take our annotations on it. We could send it into our teacher. We can actually like do so much with the internet. Also, like Canvas really helps us in class, and we can do kind of like discussions through Canvas. And also, another really important thing, especially for seniors, is like Naviance. Just the way the application process has just completely changed. It's just so like it just makes class time just so much more like relaxed and easy, and like kind of gives you more context to what you're doing, I guess.
Sure. Thank you for chiming in.
So I have a question. I was looking at the Apple, Microsoft, and Google, and notice you got you've got the number of devices spread at each high school. High school is probably the single most important area where the computer is going to be used, because then you go from there on to college and into the workforce. So when you have these devices spread, will your sample group use all 3 devices, or will it be each group will get one device? Because it would be there's some cross comparison between each device that's used and some other feedback that might be. So if you used an Apple one week or Microsoft the next.
The logistics of changing devices midstream through the pilot are very difficult, and we don't think will give us the value for the return on that work. Instead, we're going to have the collaboration take place across the people that did the different ecosystems and do it at that level. Because to have a student all of a sudden have to take a different device home, learn a different ecosystem, adapt the different content and instructional methods to that would be very difficult. You want to add to that?
We actually have had this discussion frequently, and one of the things we looked at is the courses in which the devices are being implemented, and we feel that we have to trust across courses we have more than one device being piloted. So then we can take that information from students engaged in that course and trust, whether they're from Naperville North or Naperville Central, their experience and what they provide for the pilot.
Questions, comments? Michael?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Good stuff. And thanks to both of you, because I don't think a lot of people realize at the schools, I think they're outpacing a lot of industry in the use of technology as an integral part of their day, every day. So many people, I think, are still used to, oh, yeah, they use their computer for email, and that's about the extent of it. And there's so much more potential there, and you guys are really tapping it, not just beginning to tap it. And you guys are a big part of it because you grew up with it. I know in my industry, I got to give up 50 pounds worth of pubs and charts and materials and replace it with an iPad, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened. So, and we found out it's much more efficient, and as people learn, they become much more productive with it. Mm-hmm. So I love what you're doing. I love the fact that you're exploring all three ecosystems, because I think there's too many places where people just go, hey, look, we got a really good deal on these Acers or these Asuses or these Dells or these Chromebooks, and next thing you know, Chromebooks for everybody, and then you're stuck with it. Yeah. So I'm glad you're putting a lot of thought into that, and the way you're doing it is outstanding. You know, just as a comment, or it's amazing to me that we're doing a test program, and already we're touching practically 10% of our students. Mm-hmm. So it shows how close we are getting to some kind of end game. So that's wonderful too. Mm-hmm. Now my question. I knew there was a question in here somewhere. You guys,
here it comes.
No. This is an easy one, I think. You handed this out beginning of school, right?
Yep.
So they've had it for not very long.
Right.
But I'm curious. You had a hotline. You had email. Your frequently asked questions were super great. I think they proactively answered probably 95% of the questions. My question is, how many questions and inquiries or any kind of pushback have you been getting?
Very few, very little, if any at all. And I think that speaks to how they put together the communications and proactiveness of that. Right. I think the biggest issue we've had so far was the dog. Yeah, that's the biggest issue that we've seen. Everything's been very smooth. Like Dan said, you go to these schools and the engagement is over the moon. These kids are so excited. And some of the students who may have come from difficult backgrounds who get this device handed to them, I mean, they're like, oh, this is for me. They can't believe that. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to see that. And so I think that as it pans out more, we'll get more comments and more findings. But as of now, it's been extraordinarily smooth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll get comments on the success of the system and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was particularly impressed with the proactiveness and, you know, how much thought you put into preparing everybody, whether it be professional learning for the teachers. For the kids, it's just like, oh, great, yeah, I know how to use this. But but the parents also. So that three-pronged approach, I think it paid off in the fact that you're not getting, what is this? How do I do this? Yeah. So kudos on that.
That's great. Thank you.
How do you call it? Kodus or kudos?
I think I called it something else earlier, yeah.
No, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna?
Anything else?
Yep. All right, so I'm really excited about this too, so thank you. Can you, but I'm putting on my statistics hat now, so can you speak to how your 51 teachers were selected? Like, did we get a true representation, not just of schools and levels, but of teachers' use? And I guess I'm looking for, do we get teachers who were not super excited about it, but yet, because we're going to have those when we go full scope,
Absolutely.
So that's what I'd like to hear.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So one of our teams, the team that I alluded to earlier, the content and instruction team, one of their charges back in the spring of last year was to identify those teachers in those buildings. And that was a team made up of teachers, some district administrators, some technology integration specialists. And it wasn't an easy task for them, but they were really charged with looking at, there were some criteria that we looked at. We wanted some teachers that would be great collaborators, that would be willing to take risks, that would work well with others, that are willing to try new things. And we kind of laid out some of these criteria. We looked across the different grade levels. We looked in places where can we wanted to make sure we had teams at the junior highs. We wanted to make sure we had a grade level team at the elementary. We wanted to make sure that we did have a K-12 representation. We wanted to hit multiple content areas across the high schools as well. So we laid out all those criteria, and then we reached out to building principals. As we started formulating some names, we reached out to building principals to talk about some of those names and ensure they were on board and supported that as well. We had many other people that were very interested to be a part of this, but ultimately we had to pare it down, to keep it within the size and the scope.
So do we also pick teachers who maybe needed a little bit more professional development in this area, and that they weren't necessarily already all on board using it?
It's a mix of teachers. We certainly had some that are some of our trailblazers, that are very proficient with technology, but we did have some people that were members of teams that it is a collaborative effort, and they are learning more than some of their peers are. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that as we look at the data and that you're going to present in the spring, and we we come back with a recommendation that we've looked at all the different, teachers that are out. I mean, I think
Teaching styles.
right, all different teaching styles and all different levels of need of professional development or not, and so that we can better be equipped to support those teachers that maybe do need more professional development in that area.
Can I say something about this? Your point's well taken, and the feedback that I think we're going to get for sure is that based upon where the teacher's at, and some of the new teachers are very adept at this, and this isn't a big leap for them. Some at the end apex of their careers, it's a little more of a challenge. Right. And I think we're going to find that it's not one size fits all for professional development. You might say, if you look like this, then here's your professional development package. If you're over here, then here it is. We might have to do a categorization and customize the professional development for the capabilities of the teacher and where they're at.
And that's one of the things we've been trying to do through this pilot is we have a team that's dedicated to providing the professional learning for them. They're listening to those teachers. What are their needs? What are they? And then we're trying to customize these times that we have them together.
Well, it looks like you've covered it all, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Good.
Any other questions or comments? No. Awesome presentation. Thank you. Think about all the organizations we know, large and small, that have the one-size-fit-all ecosystem. And remember back in the old days, BlackBerry always pours BlackBerry. Look how that worked out, right? I mean, goodness, seriously, it's not that long ago.
Okay. Item 6.06, legislative breakfast update. Just a reminder to the board and then also to announce to the community. On Wednesday, September 24th, from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Lincoln Junior High School, in collaboration with two neighboring districts, Wheaton Community Unit School District 200 and Indian Prairie School District 204. District 203 will be hosting a legislative breakfast where we've invited legislators that serve all of our districts to join us for really coffee and conversation about matters that are important to the district. To each of the districts. So that we have so many overlapping issues and things that affect us that we thought it would make great sense to bring the three districts together, the three boards and administrations. On the discussion items, we will talk about each district will take an opportunity to just provide the legislators an update on their district, the things, a little bit about their district and some information about their district and some of the initiatives and things that they're focused on now. And then we'll get into discussion about mutual interests of the districts as well as some pending state legislation. And one of those items that we expect to talk about that has a significant impact that you may have been reading about and hearing about is Senate Bill 16, which is currently in the House of Representatives and sponsored by Representative Linda Chapel-Lavia, who will also be attending this breakfast, could change the way schools are funded in Illinois, and it would certainly have a negative impact on our district. So this will be a great opportunity to have conversation with our representatives about Senate Bill 16. An important point that I'll share now that will be part of my message with them is my belief that it doesn't address the issue of adequacy of funding for education in the state of Illinois. It does look at redistributing the money in education, but it doesn't do anything about adequacy. It was modeled off of legislation that was done in Massachusetts several years ago. But what Massachusetts did is, what I understand is they poured over $1 billion of new money into legislation and into the schools to support the legislation. So for our school district, Senate Bill 16 in its current form would result in a reduction of more than $9.4 million in aid from the state of Illinois phased in over the next 4 years. So certainly if it stayed in its current format, which would not be our preference, we would certainly hope that the state would look at phasing it in. But again, my biggest issue is that it doesn't address adequacy. There's no new money for education in this bill. And it's also coming at a time when really the inability of the state to fully fund its own commitment that it has now. The last several years we've been funded at about 89%. So that's had a significant impact on us in districts already. There's also some things that are within that bill that I'm not sure everybody fully understands. Like, for example, the bill shifts the normal cost of the Chicago public school pension system onto the state, which comes at an interesting time when we're having all this conversation about cost shift for TRS. So needless to say, it'll be a lively conversation with our legislators, I'm sure, and I'm sure this will be one that that they'll talk about. I was encouraged to read some information recently from Representative Chapelavia about not interested in calling this bill in its current format, so hopefully they all understand that it does need some work. The reality is that there are districts that are really, really hurting, and certainly financially it's not easy for us either. But I think the biggest obstacle that needs to be addressed by the state is the adequacy, and until that's done, we're not fully solving funding for education. So look forward to the conversation on the 24th. Any questions about that event?
Dan, if I could just add, it's an open meeting, a public meeting, and I'm not sure, I guess I have a couple quick questions. One, how have we communicated to the community? And secondly, I think someone on Dan's staff is looking at getting either a live feed or a recorded feed so people can go to our website and view the and view the video, which will be
So
very
two
helpful.
quick things. Our Director of Communications, Michelle Fregoso, has a press release that is ready to go right after this meeting. And then Deputy Superintendent Kane Osborne was tasked with working with IT, and he's trying to mouth an update to me. Rather than trying to read his lips, I'll let him tell me what he's...
We anticipate recording it and rebroadcasting it immediately.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and then item 6.07 is loaded for your information. Is required by the school code. School districts are to report administrator and teacher salary from the previous year to the Board of Education at a public meeting before October 1st. So after this meeting, that information will be posted.
Thank
Those
you.
are our reports.
I do not have a report this evening, but I would like to have our student ambassadors that are with us for the entire school year introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what their future plans are, or what their plans are for the school year, or maybe beyond. Please go ahead. Whoever wants to go first.
All right. I'm Bryce Dunlap. I'm a junior at Naperville North. So just like what's been going on.
So you don't have your college picked out yet, obviously, right?
No,
What are
I know
you
what I
working
want
on? What are your interests? And obviously, if you
interests, I like sports a lot. I play soccer, basketball, and lacrosse. I like working around the school as much as possible, getting involved, like in student government. Plans for the future, for the school or for myself?
Both. Either.
I'd like to go to like West Point or the Naval Academy. And for the school, just to have best school year possible.
Awesome.
Okay, Bryce, if I can interrupt real quick after hearing a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Anything significant going on like tomorrow in the world of soccer or anything for you? Is this game a meaningful game at all tomorrow? Not sure.
A little bit.
Okay.
We got Central tomorrow. So.
All right, very good.
It's a big one.
It's also one of the things, just I know your first meeting, the board would like to hear. This is an important week and a fun week at Naperville North High School. When I was a high school principal, it was always my favorite week. So what's this week and what's the theme?
This week is homecoming week, and the theme is Hawaii. So we just have a bunch of events going on. Student government's running a couple. Do I give a report later?
Sure. If you're welcome to do it right now. Perfect.
So this week for homecoming week, student government is putting on 2 big events. Tomorrow is the student-faculty basketball game, which goes on kind of during the soccer game. And then Mr. NNHS is on Wednesday. And then throughout the rest of the week, just other events are held throughout the school. And there's themes to each day. And then, like I said, we got the big game against Central tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have a football game against Glenbard North. And then an update on the year. We kicked off the year with our annual 80s dance, which is a dance that
Like
all the
oldies. It's like oldies.
yeah,
right?
all the proceeds go to AIDS 80s. I don't know if I'd say oldies, but
That's
all the
okay.
proceeds.
That's okay. Nice. What a diplomat.
All the proceeds go to UNICEF and AIDS research. And then, like you said, we tried to get the freshmen involved as much as possible, and we had a large attendance by them, so that was great. And then I'd just like to say, like, the atmosphere around the school is super awesome this year. Our football team's doing good. Our staff is, like, amazing. And our senior class is, like, amazing, too. So there's just this really cool, like, feeling around the school.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryce.
I'm Kyle Hafke, and I'm a senior at Naperville Central. My plans for the future is I want to become a lawyer, and I am doing early decision to Claremont McKenna College in California. And I'm planning on studying psychology, I'm thinking, and also maybe government or pre-law. And I'm also involved in youth and government, debate team, NHS, and Rotary, and I'm the vice president for Rotary, which is a really nice club. And like for Naperville Central's, like what's happening is to kick off the year, we had Maha Wan, Cassie Novak, and Julie Good. They all created a little video for our for second period, and the students of Naperville Central watched the video. And it kind of like promoted our Be the Three motto, and it also helped show like all the activities to all the students to kind of like get them more involved. And then we also had our first 4 games are away, and our fourth one is this coming Friday at Wheaton South, I'm pretty sure. And then tomorrow night we also have junior family night, which is going to help this junior class really familiarize themselves with standardized testings and help them with the ACT, SAT, and PSAT, and it'll show them like what courses they can take to help further prepare themselves. And then, as you may know, we have our parent-teacher conferences coming up on the 9th and 10th of October. And finally, we were really proud to like announce that our marching Red Hawks have placed 3rd place in the Lake Park Joust competition, and it's like a multi-state marching band competition, I guess. And their first performance is going to be September 26th at our first home game at Central.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Thank you so much, Colin Bryce.
I'd only add that as you brag about the band, you'll have to remember that one of the senior drum majors is the daughter of Mr. Ross, our assistant superintendent for secondary education. So very well done by the band this weekend. I know he was there, so thanks for bringing that up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, gentlemen. No problem. Okie doke. Any board reports this evening? Okay. And now I'll go back to where I was. I don't know. I'm sorry? Yeah, he did it already. Yeah, he did it. Yeah, oh, you're just getting me confused now. Okay, so our monthly reports that are listed in board docs for your viewing pleasure are listed in there. The Treasury report, investments, insurance report, and budget report. And bills and claims, I will take that honor. I am the Board of Education representative that sat with our Chief Finance Officer, Brad Kaufman, and his staff, and went through, they were able to answer all my questions to my satisfaction. And with that, I would like to move approval of warrant number 391462 through warrant number 392171, totaling $18,401,540 for the periods of August 19th, 2014 to September 15th of 2014. And also items 8.02, 8.03, the minutes, but we're just going to do the minutes for the 8/18 meeting because we had a board member that was not.
Can you just do the minutes for the 9/2 meeting?
We'll do 9/2 and do that one separately.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's actually the right way. 9/2, and then the 8.04, application and recognition of schools, and finally 8.05. So it's basically the consent agenda except for the 8/18 public meeting. So with that, I will accept a motion, please. A motion? Oh, I'm sorry, I am the motion. What am I so used to? A motion, a second, Ann, please.
Romberg?
Yes.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Weinke?
Yes.
Yench?
Aye.
Prati?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Fielden?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Motion carries, and if I can entertain a motion and a second for the board meeting minutes for 8/18, please.
I'll motion. I motion to approve the board minutes for 8/18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Bell?
Prati?
Yes.
Fielden?
Yes.
Romberg?
Yes.
Weinke?
Yes.
Yench?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Price?
Abstain.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for getting through that. And our next agenda item, discussion with action this evening, 10.01, the Rev Track fee increase.
At our September 2nd Board of Education meeting, Deputy Superintendent Kane Osborne and Chief School Business Official Brad Kaufman presented to the Board of Education a recommendation to change the credit card convenience fee from the flat rate to 3.6% of purchase for the user. We've not received, I've not received any questions. I don't know if there's any additional questions that the board has for the gentleman.
Any other questions, comments? Entertain a motion, please.
I move approval of item 10.01 as presented.
We have a motion and a second for item 10.01, the Rev Track fee increase. And again, any other comments or questions? No? Ms. Bell, please.
Yench,
Aye.
Price,
Yes.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Romberg,
Yes.
Fielden,
Yes.
Waukee.
Yes.
Crotty.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. And 10.02, self-funded insurance, 2014-2015.
Also, at the last Board of Education meeting on September 2nd, Brad Kaufman presented to the Board of Education its recommendation for implementing the medical, prescription, vision, and dental insurance rates for the plan year January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015. And I have not received any questions. If there's any additional questions for Brad, we take them at this time.
Okay. Motion, please.
Make a motion to approve item 10.02, self-funded insurance for 2014 to 2015.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second for item 10.02, self-funded insurance, 2014-2015. One last chance for questions or comments. And Ms. Bell, please.
Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Waukee.
Yes.
Fielden,
Yes.
Romberg,
Yes.
Yench,
Aye.
Crotty,
Yes.
Price.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. And schedule of events will...
I just wanted to go through old business or new business, and I don't know where it would go. It's just a request for the next agenda regarding the discussion we had or what we received about lacrosse.
Okay.
For 20, can we put that
I
on
think
the
we should be ready for that October 6th.
October? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Schedule of events?
Just a couple highlights. Of course, I mentioned in the update on Focus 2020, September 17th and September 18th, Focus 203 Community Engagement with the State of the District presentation. We'd encourage the community to please attend and engage in that conversation with us about our school district. And then also, I just would like to highlight on Saturday, October 25th, the State Those Who Excel, where several of us will be there hoping and cheering on Seth Brady with hopes that he'll be named the State Teacher of the Year. So a number of other items are listed there. Hard to believe that as I'm looking here on the first caption on my picture, we've got Veterans Day coming up already pretty soon. So here we go.
Goes quickly. Goes very quickly. And finally, I'm sorry, Michael?
The only thing I just noticed, I didn't notice it before when I went through it, but we should probably put our next meeting on September 24th.
Yeah, that should be on there.
too,
Right, definitely.
Because that's one of our
Right.
meetings.
Yeah, that should absolutely be on there. We'll add that. That's a legislative meeting that our superintendent referred to a few moments ago. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Nobody's jumping on us.
Nobody wants to go. Everyone wants to stay. Thank you, and thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And our next meeting will be September 24th, right. Our next general meeting is October 6th, I believe. Awesome, October 6th, a Monday evening. Thank you so much, everyone, and those of you at home.